I don't really watch porn anymore, but at least for right now, I don't really watch it. But when I do eventually get sucked back into that boundless void of clockwork orange like perverse brainwashing, the entire industry should really come up with a new genre called marriage porn, where husbands and wives come home after pursuing their career paths all day, eat some shitty food, watch a few Law and Order murder porn episodes, then have the most lackluster sex of all time. I really shouldn't be speaking regarding anything of the sexual nature because I've never been married or even had successful sex, which is a topic to explore another time. And yeah, I'm not going to devote any more of this nonsensical analyses to sex. I'm only trying to do a quick 5 minute attempt of stand up before my brain begins to melt. And anyway, every joke regarding marital sex, erectile dysfunction, and the many moral complications of vaginal penetration based on years of thinking sex was shameful and penises are bad. I'm a bad penis boy. I'm a bad penis boy. Have all been done to death. And let's quickly just discuss war, since sexual urges and murderous impulses are likely birthed from the same regions of the human brain. And are there ever any good wars? Like, can that be something that some ethics class can determine? What's a good war? I mean, sometimes I guess you have to protect yourself and the saner side of humanity so those crazy tyrants don't take over the fucking world. But when is civilization going to reach that point when all the tribes no longer measure the size and worth of their god's dick by constantly instigating, plotting, and passing blood feuds on to every generation? At this point, I kind of believe human beings need to become more emotionally robotic in a way, so this can ensure that all those cunty deceptions and traditional abuses will finally go extinct, because even the cuntiest of the cunted cunts will no longer understand why they're even doing all that cunty shit in the first place. In a more general, rational discussion of these topics, in a very general fashion, I think there has to be like a more transparent, universal code, whatever that means, for the meatheads in society and the cunts. And some kind of universal sticks and stones doctrine that the world can follow, so words and thoughts do not actually lead to physical, mental, and financial pain. And under this same reasoning, there needs to be some kind of a new universal justice. This is a weird one, and I get kind of metaphysical with this approach to global politics. But it could be on the local level as well, so every new baby automatically gets a force field that protects them for their entire lives from all that cunty, evil, curse, witchy shit. And it basically works like a protection type of deal. Like, if a cunty individual tries to put some evil shit on somebody else, this force field that everybody has, regardless of your nationality, religion, or whatever, this force field would pass that pain right back onto that person. So in reality, only the crazy suicide bomber types would ever be so idiotic to inflict any kind of agony onto themselves by doing something like that. And yeah, I'm talking my way into stupid shit right now. I'm getting too serious. This is supposed to be like a stand up routine, but I don't know if I really have that in me. I'm not a very funny person. And I get too serious about shit once I start trying to come up with concepts. I'm I'm also a sober person, and maybe that's a problem for stand-up comedians because I'm too high-strung and naturally anxious. So my delivery is kind of very robotic and maybe a bit monotonous, but I don't have a lot of fart jokes. I'm sorry. Everything about flatulence has already been explored to death in so many realms of comedy, but somehow they still don't get old. And shitting your pants is pretty funny, and that's been something I've done throughout my life many, many times. Once, when I was trying to light my fart on fire with a lighter when I was a teenager, and maybe I pushed a little bit too hard. And I had to ride my bike home pretty awkwardly that day with a few turds splattered within my underwear, but I've always tried to make people laugh, even as a stupid kid like that. And that was probably way more entertaining and humorous than the words I'm trying to spit out in this 5 minutes of very amateurish humor. If anyone's ever gonna even consider this example an example of comedy. But let's get back to how fucked up humanity can be at times. And I don't want to get overly negative because, yeah, we're not living in medieval times. But the burden to find peace and truth of some, what's truth anyway, but the burden to find those concepts like peace and truth, because they're already very vague. And the fight to not be corrupted by material bullshit and manipulated by those people who look to the vulnerable, and they manipulate vulnerable people for whatever fucking purpose they try to justify to themselves. Doesn't matter. And these conflicts, they always fall to the youth. It's just the natural progression, the cycle of life. And I was thinking, I think technology is bad a lot of times, but maybe it's actually good that all these young kids have their eyes in the phone all day, because even if they're sexting or watching porn stars who set unattainable sexual standards, because porn stars, they're kind of like the Olympic athletes of fucking and sucking. But to be completely real, even myself who never had sex, I could probably get good at it if that was my daily 9 to 5 and my source of income, and determined if I ate or starved to death in some hepatitis tent city. But at least I could be a serviceable cuck. Whatever the fuck a cuck is, that's a funny word though. Anyway, the point I'm attempting to make, and again, this is supposed to be comedy, but it's not really comedy. I've tried to read this a couple times, and I really don't know what this is. But the point I'm trying to make is that maybe these distractions of sex and social media, sports, and binge watching horrible series about vampire detectives and stupid shit, maybe these things that people are saying are rotting the youth's brains or whatever. And I've said that too in the past. Maybe they're actually positive because they keep the young from developing all that hatred and nationalistic tribal bullshit that so many of their parents never could escape from back in their day, because, well, it's not really their fault that the world is portrayed as so fucked up and scattered and terrifying and strange and always in conflict. And maybe this is because those in power enjoy keeping it that way, at least maybe more so around election seasons. But again, I don't. I'm going to be stealing stuff, political notions from legends like George Carlin and Bill Hicks, so I have to stop talking about politics here. But again, I suck at public speaking. I don't have a natural conversational tone to a lot of these things, so I give comedians all the credit because they have to memorize this stuff by heart and do it in a way to make people laugh. It's probably the hardest thing you can do is make somebody laugh. And for some reason, I thought it'd be a good idea to dedicate my 200th Substack post to comedy and public speaking, which are probably the most complicated and phobia plagued forms of verbally vomiting in public. And that's all I'm pretty much doing if this is my 5 minutes of stand up. But it's really not a stand up. I don't know what I'm really reading right now. But maybe something I said or the stupid delivery, terrible delivery I have will at least make somebody smile or laugh tonight. So that's a worthy thing to try to do. And they always say, it's a cliche, and I hate cliches, but laughter is the best medicine, and it's also, you don't need a prescription. And unlike all those pharmaceutical ads, you're not going to get all those messy side effects that are read pretty quickly on those commercials, like diarrhea, trouble breathing, suicidal thoughts, permanent boners, insomnia, rashes, anal warts, finger warts, ear warts, nose warts, warts on your fucking warts, unhealthy addictions to cable news and mind-numbing reality television, ability to speak in tongues, shits the size of giant zucchinis, nose hair forest, anxious twitching for days, head swelling, toe fungus, and an overall reduction of intelligence, critical thinking, ambition, and general wellness. But thank your lucky fucking stars for all those damn pills, because who knows what state your body and mind would be in without them. Alright, that's about the best I can do for this. This is the fourth time I've read through this. The other times I was doing it a little bit more robotic and just like speaking every word, and it was pretty stale and stupid. I don't think this material is that great, but I wanted to attempt to do a stand-up, and I just farted. I wanted to attempt to do a stand-up, and this is the best I'm going to do. Maybe it's more of just a philosophical rant of nonsense. And basically, the reason I'm doing this tonight is because it's my 200th Substack post. It's been now maybe 3 years since I started Substack. I got to go back and check when I first started. And this is my 200th post. I didn't think I'd be sharing all this stuff because it's not really something I wanted to do when I started. I kind of just viewed Substack as my own like website where I could share all my stuff and organize my stuff. It would force me to be more professional. I don't know if if I met that goal. If you can call a lot of my stuff kind of juvenile and stupid, maybe half of it is pretty juvenile. I don't want to talk about serious issues all the time. Like, yeah, again, I'm a pretty idiotic person. I've been like that my entire life. Not that I can't learn things or that I didn't go to school and stuff, but it's more just my inability to accept that the world is supposed to be like this. People will look back in 100 years, 200 years, and be like, what the fuck were those people thinking back then? And it's crazy to think about shit. I was talking the other night, like, look at how people dressed and did their hair in the 80s, and you think it's like a totally different planet if you go back to 1980 right now. It's amazing how quickly generations change like that. So, yeah, I don't know if you could really call this whole thing a stand-up routine. I'm just speaking off the cuff right now, but the other part was a written thing that I was trying to just discuss or state in a more conversational tone because I really hated how the other ones turned out. So hopefully this one doesn't make me want to actually vomit. And yeah, I guess I'll end it here so I don't ramble on for another 10 minutes. But yeah, 200 posts. I didn't think I'd be a social media person, but yeah, Substack's pretty good. I would recommend Substack to anyone who just wants to not even promote a business, but just get your thoughts out. Like it's almost like a therapy session for me sometimes. So yeah, Substack's my preferred um, social media platform because that's the one I started with, and I feel like most comfortable sharing all my stuff on Substack. And because I'm trying to promote my business and make actual money, yeah, I'm trying to use anything. Like the only one I talked about this is Facebook. I can't get on, but I pretty much tried every social media site. I'm sure I'm missing stuff too. I didn't dig that deeply into it because it's tough to gain a following. Like I've been on Substack for maybe 3 years, and yeah, I don't have really anyone reading any of my stuff or doing anything. It doesn't um, it doesn't discourage me necessarily, but it would be nice to make money off some kind of social media site. But yeah, it's a different kind of business I'm trying to do right now, which isn't really like what I'm doing at this point. I would say this whole Substack journey to 200 posts was just to get my work out there and my music, my screenplays. I don't think I would have done all this stuff if it wasn't for Substack. So yeah, it's probably the only one. If I only could keep one, I would probably pick Substack because it became a little like Twitter with some of the notes and stuff, but you could get kind of lost in the days of bullshit if you really want to. But I try to avoid that stuff. I try to avoid the news and politics, and it's pretty easy to do. It's not in your face or anything. And yeah, social media is a weird thing. I don't know really how to harness it to grow and network myself, but maybe one day something will click and people will start, reading my stuff or listening to these stupid rants I go on. And I guess that's it. Yeah, maybe I failed at making a stand-up routine because I don't know. I'm trying to picture this like if I was at a comedy club, where would people laugh? Where would I pause and people would laugh? And I guess that's why stand-up comedians practice their stuff so many times because then they could see what people like and don't like. And so maybe this isn't exactly a stand-up routine, and that's fine. I'm just getting some thoughts out really quickly. My goal was to do that, but maybe it was just too scatterbrained and I don't have the greatest delivery, like I said, so it might not seem like a stand-up routine to most people.